Hello, I'm Regina John, a senior lecturer in urban and regional planning from the university. And today I'm going to talk about flood risk reduction and management from the urban planning perspective. So my presentation will cover these few topics. First, we'll start by underline the meaning of urban planning. Then we'll talk a little bit about key considerations in planning for urban spaces and how can urban planning lead to flood disasters. And finally, we will look at contribution of urban planning in flood risk reduction and management. Urban planning is a multidisciplinary field that focuses on design, organization, and development of cities and towns. It entails formulating policies and strategies for shaping and managing physical, social, economic, and environmental aspects of a built environment. So it is an interdisciplinary field that includes social engineering and design sciences. And urban planners work with diverse groups and individuals in various fields. And in various or different areas of the world, it is also referred to as town planning, city planning, urban and regional planning, or regional planning, or a combination of some of these. Key aspects in urban planning include land use planning, which deals with organization and zoning of activities on a piece of land, determining what has to be located where in terms of, for instance, residential uses, commercial uses, industrial uses, agricultural uses, open spaces, etc. It also includes transportation planning, which deals with determining and organizing transportation systems such as road networks, pedestrian cycleways, and infrastructure systems to be used by public in order to ensure efficient mobility in the urban centers. It also deals with environmental planning, which is all about ensuring that environmental resources are sustainable, are used in sustainable manner, including managing challenges related to natural challenges related to disruption of the natural environment. It also deals with housing and social planning, which include ensuring that there is adequate provisioning for housing in terms of plots for different types of housing, but also social amenities such as education facilities, health facilities, and the like. Urban planning also deals with economic development by ensuring that there is equitable allocation of users for different economic activities so as to induce investment as well as ensure that there is economic advancement in different areas within the urban setting. It also deals with infrastructure planning, dealing with different infrastructure systems, including utilities such as water, energy, solid waste management, and liquid waste management infrastructure systems. So urban planners consider a wide variety of aspects in planning for urban spaces. And the aspects depends on the level of planning as well as the goal and the site-specific characteristics. However, the generic characteristics considerations which are put in place include site characteristics such as population of the area within which the plan is concerned, topography and drainage, including the terrain of the area, soils and vegetation, climatic conditions such as such as temperature. This is shows the topographical analysis of a site in the course of undertaking planning assignment. Temperature or climatic condition issues, that is rainfall data, which are normally analyzed during planning exercises. But we also consider existing developments within the site where the plan is being undertaken, as well as sites surrounding land uses, as well as developments, so that these can be integrated into the plan. However, we are always guided by policy and legal framework, planning principles such as principles of workability, inclusivity, sustainability, mixed use and density, as well as planning standards which guide different dimensions of the planning aspects. As I said, that the various considerations depends on the level and the context within which the plan is being prepared. So for instance, for the case of Tanzania, if we take that context, we have different levels of plans. At the national level, we have the National Land Use Framework of 2023 to 2033. This provides an overall guidance on decisions related to utilization of land resources. At the city level, we have general planning schemes and interim land use plans. General planning schemes are also known as master plans, and these are long-term plans of 20 years, which gives a vision of a city or a town, and the interim land use plan are shorter to medium-term plans of less than 10 years, and they are normally prepared in case a master plan is not in existence. At lower level, we have detailed planning schemes for new areas. We have regularization schemes, and we have development schemes. And all these are guided by existing policy and legal framework, which includes the Land Act of 1999, Land Policy of 1995, Human Settlement Development Policy, Urban Planning Act of 2007, Environmental Management Act, and Urban Planning Space Standards of 2018. So all these are the aspects. The legal framework are actually the key considerations also in planning for urban spaces. So in urban planning, we actually consider that flood are hazards. And urban planning can also lead to flood disasters if not properly done. So poor or inadequate urban planning is linked to flood disasters in various ways. For instance, when urban plans or the plans that are produced provide for inadequate infrastructure for stormwater management, that will always lead to floods when there are incidences, for instance, of flash floods or heavy rains. Poor solid waste management or inadequate provision for infrastructure for solid waste management is also related to flood disasters, because in these cases, when the infrastructure is not adequately provided, solid waste is haphazardly dumped in various areas, including in drainage systems and other channels which could be used as waterways to drain the urban areas. Also, inadequate implementation of development control measures, such as building code, setbacks, and development in hazardous areas lead to flood hazards due to blockage of waterways, and also due to increase in impervious surfaces which do not allow water to percolate. Improper land use, sometimes through urban planning, improper decisions may be made to allocate development activities in areas which are not proper for development, such as low-lying areas, hazardous lands, and other areas which need to be protected. So when such kind of developments are allowed through planning, they also lead to flood hazards. Inadequate planning for early warning and evacuation systems also may hinder population or city residents coping capacity in terms of dealing with flood hazards when they want to evacuate, if there are no evacuation routes and emergency centers are located through planning process, that will make city residents more susceptible and therefore vulnerable to flood hazards. Also, inadequate provision for green structures, which are very pertinent in flood control. Urban planners are responsible for allocating this, so when these are inadequately provided, they can lead to flood hazards. Another aspect is urban expansion into coastal areas without, for instance, taking into consideration risks associated with sea level rise or storm surges may lead to disasters when storm surges occurs. So as much as urban planning may contribute to flood disasters, urban planning also plays a critical role in contributing to reducing flood risk reduction and management. And this can happen through flood risk-based land use plans accompanied by implementation tools. For instance, by ensuring proper zoning plans that demarcate areas by degree of flood risk in different parts of a city or a town and link them to appropriate, safe, and permissible land uses. Also, through ensuring effective development controls, for instance, by limiting development in flood-prone zones or allowing multiple uses with elevated or flood-proofed structures, or require setback from hazard areas and regulate impervious surfaces or promote more of green structures. Urban planning also can reduce flood risk by using building codes, specifying minimum design standards for materials, because flood disasters may happen because of the structures which are built, especially if they're built in flood risk areas. Also through flood plan zoning, by prohibiting development or limit development density or restricted development in higher vulnerable areas. So when urban planners are able to generate maps which shows different levels of risk within a city, then this kind of maps can be used to guide where development has to occur and which restrictions have to be put where, so as to limit or to reduce flood disasters. Others include creating green spaces and buffer zones through encouraging the creation and preservation of green spaces in buffer zones along water bodies, so as to retain water and to reduce flooding. Like these ones, buffers should be wide enough so as to protect flood water from getting out of the water bodies. Plans to protect coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, salt marshes, coral reefs, and other coastal ecosystems, so as to limit especially flooding from sea level rise, which is also one of the areas that can cause flood disasters in cities, such as Dar es Salaam, which is lying across the coastal area. But also ensuring adequate urban drainage systems so as to manage flow of water during heavy rains. Urban planners are responsible during planning, during the allocation of land for different infrastructure systems, to allocate land, sufficient land for this infrastructure so that water can be drained. Flood barriers and levees can also be used as ways to reduce disaster risk in urban areas, but also ensuring effective early warning and evacuation systems through early warning risk assessment and mapping. Planners are better placed to be able to formulate or to develop risk assessment maps, which can also guide on evacuation routes in case of disaster events leading to either holding centers or temporary holding centers or evacuation places. So this some of the ways in which urban planning can play a role in reducing risk reduction in urban areas. These are some of the references which can provide more elaborate information on the role that urban planning can play in terms of reducing flood risk, disaster in urban centers and in cities. This marks the end of my lecture. Thank you for watching and listening.